Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with another Tech4Good webinar series on online collaboration with Microsoft tools. My name is Christine Hyman. I'm from Connecting Up, and we're very proud to bring you this webinar in partnership with TechSoup Global, TechSoup Asia, and Microsoft Citizenship. Today's webinar will be looking at some tools that you can use to work with staff and volunteers if they are off-site, whether they're working from home or whether they're working remotely, and how we can use it to benefit everyone in the organization. So in that case, today we have Ben Tia who will be presenting most of the session today, but we also have Ryan Jones from Connecting Up who will be helping him later on doing some of the demo, doing the collaboration side of things, because obviously you need more than one person to collaborate. So we'll have that in the demo. So before I move on, just a few regular housekeeping notes, especially for those of you who are new to our webinar. We are recording this session, so we'll upload it later on and we'll send everyone the link so you can catch up in case you miss on some parts. And also we encourage any questions that you might have, and we will answer them throughout the session and possibly at the end of the session as well. So just keep them coming through the question box and we'll make sure we'll address as many as possible. Now, as I said, this webinar is partly brought to you in partnership with Microsoft, and we have Jillian from Microsoft who will be just sharing a quick opening remarks for you. So I'll hand you over now to Jillian before we go on into the presentation. Over to you, Jillian.
Thanks, Christine. Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian Pearl, and I work with the Microsoft Citizenship team in Asia Pacific. And we're very happy to be sponsoring the Tech4Good webinar series with Connecting Up and TechSoup Asia. This is part of Microsoft's overall commitment to the nonprofit sector, through which we provide programs such as webinars like these. We provide conferences and newsletters and other materials that are helpful to nonprofits in terms of your use of technology. So we hope you enjoy today's webinar, and we welcome your feedback and ideas for other webinars on topics that you feel would be interesting and most helpful to you. So thanks again for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy the session. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Jillian. So we do have a fair bit to cover. So without further ado, I'll now get Ben to start his presentation.
Fantastic. Thanks, Christine, and thanks, Jillian, as well. So, my name is Ben Tio, and I am the Content and Community Coordinator here at Connecting Up. And today, we're going to look at online collaboration tools and also just some of the things that you can do with some fantastic software online. So, let's keep moving. So, when we talk collaboration, it's all about working together. So I'm sure that wherever you work, if you need to spend time in a team, there are certain dynamics and certain things that you need to get done. And obviously, there are some different ways of doing it. I know here at Connecting Up, we've gone through a few different tests, and as the technology has grown, so has our capabilities. So we're no longer having to pass notes or share emails. We can do more things online with the tools available to us. So obviously there are a few things that that need to be done when you're working in a team, and everything from basic communication, so keeping people up to date with what's going on, to sharing and managing your documents, and also making sure that tasks get completed. So if you are working on a joint project, knowing who's responsible for what task and who's working together on what task is really important to make sure that your project has the right outcomes. And of course, at the end of any project or any activity, you want to make sure that you can report on it, and you can also track the progress. So of course, they're the basics of working together, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that. The benefit these days is that we're able to look at the internet now and look at how we can use online tools, not just for websites, not just for social media, but for actually doing work together. And I think that's where things start to get a little bit more exciting. We're not just looking at cat photos, we're actually getting work done. So some of the benefits that we're seeing at the moment are an increase in high-speed broadband. In Australia, we've got a high-speed broadband network being rolled out, but we also have the high-speed connections through cable, through ADSL, and through wireless 4G available as well, and I'm sure that's the same in a lot of other countries. So that's one of the big game changers when it comes to being able to use online tools for collaboration. Another one is that we're seeing more apps and more software being available on multiple devices. So the divide between Mac and PC isn't as big as it used to be years ago. There's software that can be run on both, and software providers are doing their best to make sure that you can work on any laptop or any desktop computer and be able to have the same experience. And that goes for mobile devices as well. So whether you're running Windows Phone or iOS or Android, there are a lot of apps out there now that will run across the platforms. And the way they do that is that they'll sync your data in the cloud. So if you're using OneNote, for example, to keep track of all your notes, you can use that on any device and know that your notes are going to be available to you wherever you are. Of course, when it comes to the workplace, we're finding that more people are mobile in the work that they do, so they're not just locked down to the office, but they're actually out spending time with people. And that's especially relevant for the not-for-profit sector, where there are people running events or going to home care situations or community care or doing outreach programs. A lot of the work that's done for not-for-profit organisations is done on the road. It's not in the office. And so being able to have access to your information while you're on the road is really important. Of course, there's also situations where you may have multiple offices or multiple sites that you need to work alongside with. So having all your files on a server in one location and not being able to share those files gets really difficult. It's also hard when you're relying on your own hardware as well, and you need to make sure that you keep that server up to date. And again, we find that a lot of small organisations, small to medium organisations, don't necessarily have the IT know-how or the budget to keep those servers up to date and backed up properly. And that can have its own difficulty, especially when you need it to serve multiple locations. So, in terms of the benefits of the cloud, one of the biggest benefits is that you have the capacity to scale. So that means you only need to pay for the users that you have. So let's say in the past, if you've needed to bring some volunteers on and you've added a computer and they need access to a copy of Office, you would have to buy that copy of Office and then for that volunteer to use. If that volunteer leaves, that means you're stuck with a copy of Office that people aren't using. And that's an expense that can significantly impact the organisation, especially when the organisation moves and flows with the number of volunteers or staff members depending on the projects. So the cloud allows you to add users and remove users as you need, but doesn't just come. It's just not about software either. You can also do the same with hardware. So, for example, that volunteer needs storage space and somewhere to put their files. Before you would need to, if you needed to scale up, you would buy a physical hard drive and allow them to access that data. But now, because of the cloud, you only need to purchase what you need. So you don't have to buy a physical hard drive. You can just scale up the storage you have online. The next is reliability. So with your cloud-hosted services, your IT systems are looked after by a service provider, and their job is to make sure that your IT is running all the time. So you've got a dedicated person working on the servers that you're using, so you don't have to worry about going to the server room and checking things or having to log in to your server and trying to figure out what's going on. If something does happen, you can get that support from your host. So that's fantastic, especially for organisations who don't have in-house IT experts. The other one that's really important that we find a lot of not-for-profits sometimes ignore is the importance of backups and the need to back things up properly and securely, and that can be done through the services that you access through the cloud. So no more having to take those tapes home at night or going down to the local office shop to buy a $20 hard drive which might crash. You can have your backups done properly and accessible to you. And of course the other pain when it comes to having your own hardware and your own software is that you need to keep it up to date, and having to make sure all of your users are using the same software can also be a bit of a nightmare. But with cloud hosted products, you can be assured that all of your products and all of your users are using exactly the same version of software that's all up to date for you. Again, saving you a lot of time and a lot of hassle and a lot of resources as well in terms of finance. So what does that all mean? Of course, peace of mind. So if you don't want to spend all your time on IT and hardware and software updates, then cloud hosting is a great solution for you. Okay, in terms of collaboration, what does this all mean? So having your documents and your files hosted in the cloud means that you can access those wherever you need. So whenever you've got an internet connection and an internet browser, you can go to your cloud-hosted products and download those. You can access your documents, your files. It's also centralized, so no more of everyone having different USB hard drives with different versions of the same document, or you know, there are people who will use their email system as a way of storing documents which are emailed around. Having somewhere central that everyone can access is really, really helpful. Of course, we talked about backups. They're there, and again, you don't need to run your own servers. So again, if you're not familiar with setting up SharePoint or setting up Exchange or Lync or any of the bigger server products, then you can have that all done for you in the cloud. Alright, so when it comes to the nitty-gritty or getting the hands-on in terms of online collaboration, we do this quite a bit in Connecting Up, and here are just some of the things that we need to make sure that we can get done when we are working together on projects, on documents, on different tasks. So of course we need to access those files and documents that we need, and there are a number of different things that we use this for. We need to share notes, so if we have meetings and we brainstorm and we get ideas for our blog posts or for our e-newsletters, then we need to have somewhere to put those notes. We also want to make sure we can keep track of it all. So if anyone looks back at the change history of the documents, we can see who's been working on what and what's been updated. And then another handy feature is being able to share our calendars, and not just share our individual calendars, but look at our calendars as a team and see what we're doing as a team and any key milestones or deadlines or significant dates that are coming up. The other one, finally, is task management, where we want to assign tasks to each other, see where we're at with them, and also make sure that any tasks that we are working on or need to work on, that all the preceding tasks have been finished. So that's what we're looking for out of a collaboration tool. I know there's a lot of organisations who will use multiple tools to do the range of things that they need, and that can be a hassle because you need to log on to different programs, different sites to make sure you can do that. But today what we want to look at is Office 365 and in particular SharePoint. So if you came to Introduction to Office 365 previously, you would know that the Office 365 that we talk about is actually the enterprise version, so it's very different to the retail version that you might buy off the shelf. The enterprise version includes a whole bunch of additional features. So of course you get your web-based version. You get web-based versions of the popular Office products like Word and Excel. being able to use them online means that you can do some fun activities like co-authoring of documents, and we'll show you what that looks like. But then you also get SharePoint Online, which is a hub for your team to work on, and you can create multiple sites for your organization, and they could be internal sites. So you may have a little hub for, say, your marketing team to share documents and share files. You may have a site or a hub for a key project that you may want to pull people into, and you can work together in one place. The other thing that you can do with SharePoint Online is also create an external website. So if you don't have a website for your organization, or you're thinking about updating your website, you can do that using SharePoint. And that way it's a familiar interface for you to not only work together internally, but also share content externally as well. The other one that you get is Microsoft Exchange. So that's for all your emails and calendars. You don't need to worry about setting up an Exchange server. And also Lync, which is a communications platform where you can do voice calls, video calls, and also screen share. So it's fantastic for team meetings. Okay, but instead of talking it all through, let's actually take a moment to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to jump out of this PowerPoint and go to Internet Explorer. So here we are. This is Internet Explorer. So this is a website. So you can see down the bottom, I've just opened up Internet Explorer and gone to my SharePoint site. So this is just a test SharePoint site that we've set up for our team. And so in the morning, what I might do is figure out what work do I need to do today, what do I need to get done. So as part of Team Awesome, I'll come on to the Team Awesome project site and have a look. So what we see here is a custom designed SharePoint site. I have at the top here a look at the tasks that need to be done on the timeline. Well, there's a bit of discussion that's happening down here, and there's also documents that I can access on here. Right, again, so this is all in my browser. So I can see here, there's one late task. I better check out what that is. Okay, I need to finish off the draft launch blog post, and that is assigned to me, and that was due yesterday. Whoops, so I'm going to go to my documents, or to the team documents, and this is the blog post. So we're creating an awesome list. So I'm going to click on here, awesome list. Alright, so this is my document. Now, you'll notice that this looks like your desktop version of Word, but this is actually Word Online. So with Word Online, you can do very familiar things like read and edit. You can also see there are comments here, but I'm going to edit this document because I need to get this work done. So edit in Word Online. Okay. Right, so here I am in Word Online. I actually saw that Ryan is also here, so that's great. So he's doing some editing. So maybe I'll have a chat to Ryan about what he's up to and how he can, or what he's doing in that document. So I'm going to go to Lync. All right, I'm just going to bring this over here. Pull in. Open up Internet Explorer. I'm going to give Ryan a call. He's online. I'll just check with him first, send him a message. Hey Ryan, are you free to chat? So he'll get a little message in his link. I can see that he's typing a message back to me. Okay, let's call. Alright, so we're going to do a video chat now. So start my video. Right, so Ryan's phone is ringing. There we go. So Ryan, hey Ryan. Cool, hey, I see you're working on a document there. Actually, that picture doesn't quite work. Can I get you to update that for me?
Sure, no problems.
Okay, so now you can see Ryan, his cursor is here now. So you can see he's going to delete that picture and he's going to look in clip art and see if he can hunt down another picture for me. And once he inserts that, that'll happen straight away. There we go. Now while that's loading, or while he's doing things, I can make some edits as well. So here's a picture of the research that was done. Alright, so Ryan and I are editing this document at the same time, and we can see each other's edits. So as I'm typing, he can see that happening, and you can see that that cursor is right there. Anyway, let's chat back to Ryan. Hey Ryan, thanks for that. Looks like our blog post's all done, so we'll get that sent off. Cheers, see ya.
See ya.
Alright, we'll end that call. Great, we'll close Lync. Alright, so we're done. So I'm just going to exit out of that. So that's all saved automatically for us. So I'm going to go back to the SharePoint site. Great. Now let's say Ryan had done some other edits that I wasn't sure of, and I just want to double check what happened there. I can click here. I can go version history. So with SharePoint, you can set it up so that other people, you can actually save different versions of your document. So you can go back and see what have been changed. Now I can have a look here. Zuki's made some updates. So I'm just going to jump down here. This was a little while ago. Now of course SharePoint Online can also be integrated with your desktop apps as well. So you can have a look at how SharePoint here opens up your document on the desktop. I can see there are some comments here. Alright, so Zuki's made some comments just to say what's been updated, so not a problem. I'm going to close that. That's fine. Alright, I'll go back to SharePoint. No dramas. So of course you've got Word, but you've also got Excel, you've got PowerPoint, and OneNote. And I'm just going to show you that. So as a team, we also have a team notebook. So let's say I was doing that blog post and I wanted to double check if there is anything I missed out on that. Great. So OneNote is a fantastic note-taking program, and OneNote, again, as I mentioned before, works on across the platform. So you can use this on your Windows PC, you can use it on your Android phone or tablet, and also your Apple devices, iOS, and also on your Apple desktop, so in OS 10. Alright, so let's have a look at launch blog post notes. Okay, there were some potential images. Okay, no worries, we'll sort of those up. There's also a note here about getting approval from Jillian. If I wanted to, I could call Jillian and then get her approval and share the document with her. But we're all good to go. So, right, no dramas. Now, of course, you've got all different types of ways you can use OneNote. As a team notebook, you'll also want to look at who has been adding these notes. So I can click View and Show Authors. So you can say, up here, these are my notes that I made. Here are some notes that other people made. But we can work on these documents together as well in the same way that we would with OneNote. So let's say there was a meeting that we were at and we were all taking notes and we were working remotely and we wanted to keep it up to date so we don't all have our separate notebooks. We can do that within OneNote and all check back on here afterwards. Alright, now that task, right, whoops, it was late, so I can mark that as done now. All good. Of course you can see the timeline here, and I can click tasks as well. I can see what other tasks are coming up to see what I need to work on. Alright, so the draft launch blog post is done, so I could go to finalize blog post and launch blog post if I wanted to, or publish it. You can also look at our team calendar and see what else is happening. Alright, so we all have access to this calendar, so we can, there's a meeting here to talk about that launch blog post later today, so we can, now that we've drafted it, that's just in time for that meeting. All good. We've also got a cool team mailbox here. So what this means is that we can keep everyone up to date on what's happening with our email. So let's say we get an email from Gillian, who works externally, and she wants to update the team on what's coming up with that blog post. She can email us directly here from any email address, and then the whole team has access to this mailbox. So no more do we have to make sure that we get everybody in the forwarding loop or CC loop. We can just send one email to the team mailbox and everyone has access to that. Alright, what's great here is that this team mailbox also integrates with the Outlook desktop app. So I'm just going to pull that up. So Outlook, search for that. Alright, so this is my Outlook desktop app, and you can see here in the bottom left hand corner that everything is awesome mailboxes there. That's our team mailbox, so I've got access to the email there, but I've also got access to documents here. So what I'm going to do is just push this over to the side, jump down to the desktop, oops, close that for the moment. I'm going to grab this document here, 10 reasons why I love Lego. I'm going to drop that into Outlook. Now, if I was to sync this then, after syncing that, that would actually appear in our team mailbox. So back here, so not in the team mailbox, that'll actually appear in the team documents. Oh, there you can see it's in the home screen there, but it's also there. So again, a really easy way to access all your documents. So now that document is available to everyone. So it was on my desktop and I needed to share it with the team. Now everyone has access to it and they can edit it, and that's all saved in the cloud, and we can go through that same process of editing and keeping versions, etc., etc. There's no need for me to put that on a USB drive and hand it over to somebody else. So that's a really quick look at how we can use SharePoint to work together. Now, of course, there's a lot more that you can do with SharePoint, and this is just scraping the tip of the iceberg. But in terms of collaboration, this means that you have your project management system all in place. You've got your calendar, you've got your tasks, you've got your shared documents and editing, and each user with SharePoint has, I believe, 25 gigs of data that they can store documents, so you've got plenty of space per user, especially when it comes to documents. You can also add extra apps. So for example, I've added the Awesome Photos app here, or it's actually just called the Photos app, but we added Awesome because just to make it a bit more awesome. And I've dropped some photos in here already about photos that we could use if we wanted them for extra documents or just new ways to share. Another great thing that we can do, let's go back to the home, is we can have a news feed here. So let's say we did update that blog post. We can say, hey, Ryan, and I have finished off that blog post draft. Sorry for the delay. Great. There we go. So we can tag each other in updates, and so people can see that, and other people can come and like and follow. This actually adds another layer of collaboration. It's that social aspect of being able to not just work on the hard tasks, but we can give smaller updates as well through the news feed. And of course, we can add photos like this one, and we can reply. We can even use hashtags if we want to. So we can go. If I wanted to reply, hash. Awesome. Thanks for the help, everyone. Okay. There we go. So what we have right here is an integrated platform that's designed specifically for helping your organization, your teams work better together. You've got access to your documents, you've got access to each other's contacts. One thing that we just wanted to show you with Lync as well. Now let's pull up Lync. We also have the ability to see when people are online. Lync will also integrate with your Outlook. So let's say you have a meeting. Lync will automatically set you to busy or do not disturb. And if you're away from the desk, you can it'll say that you're away or inactive. The great thing about that is that you can know when someone's online straight away, and that's all integrated as well. So there's no need to having to remember to go to your Skype or whatever messaging platform you may need or use and setting your status or being out of the office and forgetting to set your status. That'll do it all for you. So this idea of presence is really important, and that's integrated across a lot of the Microsoft products as well. So we can see when people are online wherever they are. So let me show you. Let's jump in here. There we go. So we can look at email and we can find out some more details about him and click his information as well. So we can have our own personal profiles there too. Okay. All right. Let's jump back over here now. So the big question, how do we get Office 365 and SharePoint Online and all those services? The great news is that Microsoft is offering Office 365 as a donation to not-for-profit organisations in Asia and New Zealand at the moment. And so that's a free offering. And that is the E1 package, which is the one that you want. So let's go back. E1 is the one that you get. Now, of course, you get all those. You get SharePoint Online, Microsoft Exchange, and Lync servers. All that service software is all part of the E1 package, along with the web-based versions of your Office documents. If you were looking to also integrate your desktop versions, you see that we opened up Word on the desktop, and we opened up Outlook on the desktop. To access those products, you can also receive a donation of Office 2013, which is the which is the desktop version of Office through TechSoup Asia and TechSoup New Zealand, and also Connecting Up for those of you in Australia who want to access a donated desktop version. You can access those and integrate that with the E1 package very easily. It's quite simple to set that up. Now, again, let's go back to that URL. So if you're in Asia and New Zealand, then you want to go to this link and register your organisation for the E1 donation, which is a free donation to you as an organisation. Okay, before we finish up, we'll see if there are any questions for anyone.
Thanks, Ben. There's a couple of questions here. One from Stephen. They have SharePoint 2013 on premises. What would be a reason to move to the cloud?
Simply, on-prem means that you're having to manage that yourself. For a lot of organisations who don't have the capacity to manage the on-premises setup themselves, or they're not capable in terms of their actual infrastructure as well for the hardware, then moving to online will help. It'll also mean that you will reduce your IT costs in terms of having to maintain that as I mentioned before, because it's cloud-based. It'll all be updated for you as you need it, and it'll also be secure for you as well. Of course, if you've got people who are on site doing your on-premises SharePoint 2013 installation, that may change their role or free up their time to do other work around the office as well.
Thank you, Ben. A question from Robert about release date for Australia. Unfortunately, we don't have that yet, Robert, but shall update you as soon as we know. And you'll obviously hear more from us when we do know when it's going to be released in Australia. From Peter, how many sites can work from one copy of E1, or do you get one copy for each person?
So the way that E1 will work is that you get the E1 package and then you would add users to that. In terms of SharePoint sites, to be honest, I don't know what the maximum number of SharePoint sites are, but it's not necessarily per person. You can set up multiple sites for your organization, and then you can also allow people to create sub-sites as well. But to be honest, I don't know what the maximum is. I haven't looked at that, sorry.
How many users can edit a document? And that's a question from Mark Benson.
That's a good question as well. I don't have a maximum number of users who've edited documents. I think we've had 2 or 3 people editing at the same time. Unfortunately, I don't have it set up to test that right now, but I don't have the information on how many at the maximum can edit. But there's definitely scope for like a small team to work together on a document.
Any other questions in the meantime? Or do you have anything you want to add for the time being, Ben, while people, I guess, think about their questions?
Great. So creating a site, the actual process of setting this up is quite easy. Once you've got your Office 365 installation, so I'll jump back to that, Office 365. So again, all of this is built into Office 365. So once it's provisioned, you'll have OneDrive, which is for individuals to store their own data as their own documents. You'll also have sites, which is SharePoint, and you'll also have access to your own personal Outlook, calendar, and contacts. So you don't have to do, once you're with Office 365, you don't have to do everything via the sites. You also have access to your personal information. So I can go here and look at my personal Outlook, and that'll open up the web app, and that'll give me all of my own information. There we go. So I've got notifications there about what's happening around the place. Let's go back to sites. It's very easy. So I'll just click New Site, and all there. Okay, so each site is also customizable. So as I was saying, you can add apps, but you can also change the background, change the logo. So if you do need to run sites with different requirements per team or per project, that's not a problem. You can also share documents externally, which is good too. So you can allow other people to edit documents who aren't part of your organization in the same way that people can edit them internally. So all you would need to do is get a special share link, and you can do that. Let me jump into here. So you can share individual documents, or you can share from within the site. So share with people. So we can do it as a link. You can do view-only links or create links. So let's say I did want to get Jillian to check out that email, check out that blog post. I could create a link. I could email that to her, and she doesn't need to be part of our SharePoint site. She can be external, and she can open that up in her browser, and she'll be able to see that. Likewise, if we did an edit link, I could send that to her, and she'd be able to edit that document as well. I can also see who has access to that document if I need to just double check that and see who's been part of it. So there's lots of flexibility in terms of working internally and externally, and that can be especially important if, for example, you have external contractors maybe doing some design work, or people collaborating on a project across an organization, then you can do that too.
Great, thanks, Ben. We've got a couple more questions come through since then. Can users have different access to documents and or other areas? So I guess permission-based question from Joel.
Yep, definitely. So you can share documents, and as I was saying, we can share. So this is one site, but and this is for one team. But there may be many other people in our organisation who may be part of other teams who need access to these documents, and you go through the same process. So you can share, and you just find the people in your organisation to share those documents with, and they'll have access. And they'll also receive an email to let them know what they're part of. And again, you as an individual may also be part of different sites. So you may be part of different teams or different projects, and you can follow follow the different sites and make sure that you're up to date with all of those things. And of course that can tie back to your own personal calendar as well.
The next question from Colette. What is the process of migrating from Office on your desktop to Office 365? Can you import contacts automatically?
Yep, definitely. So it's actually quite simple. So you can, if we're just talking Office 365 and your desktop product, then you can have either multiple multiple accounts on your desktop application. So, for example, let's go down to here. So you can see I've got my Office 365 installation here, but I could also go add account, and I can add say an older account or an older Exchange account. I can do that as well. But you can also sync contacts as well. So you can bring contacts into. Oops, let's use this one. So this is my Office 365 people. I could export my contacts out of Outlook and bring them into here as well. Programs like Lync as well allow you to access a range of different contacts too. So you can access, depending on how you've set up, you can access your LinkedIn contacts, and anyone else that you've set up as well. So that process is, it takes a little bit of work, but it isn't a nightmare to get your contacts all sorted out. If you needed to migrate your email, it might be your email in particular, it might be a little bit trickier. If you are interested in doing migration services, we recommend that you talk to an IT professional about that. Also just making sure that that you have what's necessary to make sure Office 365 and SharePoint would work properly for your organization.
Great. Another question on SharePoint. Do you have recommendations for structuring SharePoint sites?
That is a big question, and probably one that needs to be tailored per organisation. So I know there's a lot of people who will either structure it per project, or they'll structure it per team, or there may be a bit of both. What you do get with SharePoint is the ability to create sub-sites, so users can create sort of mini sites within it. And really it'll come down to how you want to manage your data and your information. Unfortunately, it's probably not something that we can go into in this webinar, but there are a lot of great resources online to look at different variations of SharePoint installations and site structures.
Alright, now we can, following on that question, Robert was asking, any recommended reading, or maybe we can look up after the webinar, we can send you some links as well.
I highly recommend actually just going to the SharePoint blog and the SharePoint website. They do have some really good information there. There's a website called discoversharepoint.com, and that walks you through all the basics, but also has plenty of videos and sites to get started. Another feature of Office 365 Enterprise is that you also get access to the community. So sort of one of the hidden benefits here, but you can see it says participate in the community. You can click there and you can get a lot of help from other SharePoint users or other Office 365 users, and also Microsoft staff will be able to answer your questions. You might be able to find information about questions you already have, and the staff there are pretty hot on it, so they'll answer your questions in a fair timely manner. And again, this is the good thing about this is that we're talking business here. This is the enterprise business forum. It isn't your general public retail version of Office 365, so it'll be related to the enterprise package that not-for-profits are eligible for. So that's a community blog, and that's accessible through your Office 365 installation there. Participate in the community.
Great. A few of the questions here, while we're talking about SharePoint, we might continue on that theme. From Don, can I hyperlink local local documents and have it preserved in the cloud for other team members to use?
So if you're looking at, say, allowing people to access documents that are on your computer by hyperlinking them, probably not the best way to do it. So what you would do is, as I showed you before, you can upload your existing your existing file or document to the SharePoint site, and then anyone can access that, and you can give them different permissions. If you didn't want to do that within a site, you can do that in your own personal OneDrive account. So here we go. So this is these are documents that I've created myself. They're not part of a team. They're just extra documents, and I can share these out to other people. You can download versions down to your desktop if you want to, but my recommendation, once you're using Office 365 and using OneDrive, I'd use this to store your documents. You can also use the OneDrive app or the OneDrive software to synchronize your desktop documents with your cloud documents, and again you can share those around. If you wanted to keep like a persistent version of that document, maybe put that in a site and have versioning on it so people can see the original versions, or just create 2 copies of it. But in terms of hyperlinking to a document on your computer, that isn't possible. It would have to be within hosted somewhere in the cloud, either in your OneDrive.
Ben, just a question on Lync from Hi. Can Lync Online be used as online conference tool with audio, video, etc.? And if so, how many attendees does it support?
Great question. So yes, you can use it for, so this is the app, so this is the modern UI app that I've got running, but there's also a desktop app. But you can use it for video conferencing and voice conferencing. You can bring external people in, and you can also run PowerPoint presentations and share your screen with Lync. So in itself, it's a very powerful collaboration tool. I might have to defer to Gillian in terms of the maximum number of people who can participate, but in terms of video, it's actually quite handy to be able to bring people in, have a chat. You can also share your control of your screen. So for example, you may have PowerPoint open, you may want to allow, so let's say it was Ryan and myself in the meeting, I could allow Ryan to control my PowerPoint presentation. So if you had multiple presenters in multiple locations, that's another way that you can do it. And you can share as I was saying, you can share your screen, either your whole screen, or share one app or PowerPoint, or you can even have an interactive whiteboard where you can just draw on the screen with your mouse or with your touch screen. So Lync is quite a powerful tool. For those of you who are interested in Skype as well, Lync can integrate with Skype, and you can pull your contacts from Skype into Lync as well if you need to collaborate with someone externally. We talked about Lync having that presence. Another powerful way of using Lync is to federate your Lync access. So for example, Gillian with Microsoft, we could be federated with Gillian, and I could see her presence as well. So if you need to work across organizations fairly regularly, and you never know when people are free or if they're available, Lync solves that problem by federating your details. So then Gillian can see when I'm busy, she can see when I'm available, and I can do the same way, likewise for her. So very handy.
Thanks, Ben. Gillian did say there's a maximum of 250 for Lync, so that's a big number.
Oh, party.
All right, a couple of other questions. Firstly, about 365 generally. So there's a question from Hui. Feel free to clarify, Ben, if you need more information. But they would just like to know if it's with the E1 for not-for-profits, can they download the software for the computer and to the phone, etc.?
No. So the E1 package only has the web apps. Now I believe you can still use the OneDrive sorry, not OneDrive. Oh yeah, the OneDrive apps will work fine. OneNote and Lync apps, I believe, aren't an issue. But if you're looking for Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, then you will need to either upgrade to the E3 package, where you pay a small fee per user to access the desktop apps, or you'll access the donation of Office 2013, which is the desktop version. So there will be a cost involved with those if you are accessing those through Zealand. It's a very small administration fee, which is a very small percentage of the retail cost. But the E1 package itself is free for eligible not-for-profit organisations.
Now, just the question about 365 as well, I guess trying to help these organizations to be able to explain and get other people to understand about it. How can you describe the details of what Office 365 is for everyone to be able to understand what it is?
Great question. So, Office 365 is essentially your Office in the cloud. So it's all of that collaboration, it's all of the tools that you use regularly, so it's your communication tools, your document editing tools, your file sharing, all of that in the cloud, but the extra addition of also having all of your server and hosted software in the cloud as well. So before, you needed to have your own backups. You needed to have like a physical machine in the back room. You needed to install all your software there and have it all set up before you can roll that out to your organization. Now you don't have to worry about that. With Office 365 Enterprise, you have your SharePoint server, you have your Exchange server, your Lync server, all hosted for you, all set up all ready for you to go, and you don't need to worry about updating them. You don't need to worry about whether they're the latest version. With Office 365 itself, those desktop apps and the Word apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you don't need to worry about your staff members having different versions. So it's no longer the case of somebody working on Office 2003, somebody working on Office XP, and someone working on Office 2010, and nobody being able to open up each other's documents. Everyone is on the same page.
A great explanation there. A question from Mark. Can I use Office 365 for personal storage of data?
You can use it in your OneDrive, but of course if you're using Office 365 Enterprise, this is your organization setup. So if you wanted to break out and do your own that's something you'd probably have to talk with your IT admin about in terms of what's allowed to be stored there. If you want personal information, you probably want to set up your own OneDrive account or Outlook account on Outlook.com or OneDrive.com as a personal installation, or if you want, get yourself a retail version of Office 365, which comes with additional storage for you as well. But at an enterprise level for your organization, if you want to store your personal files there, you would probably want to talk to your IT admin about that.
Thanks, Ben. Just a couple more here. Is Access or Microsoft Access Database part of Office 365?
Yep, you can definitely get Access. It's not the same. It's not the same in the web. Actually, sorry, I shouldn't just jump in like that. It's not part of the web apps, but you can integrate it with the desktop app, and you can, in the same way that you can integrate other Microsoft products like Project. There is also, in SharePoint itself, there is an app that you can pull in. So if you've got a SharePoint site, actually I won't go through the whole thing, you can add an Access app into your SharePoint site. But at this stage, as far as I know, Access itself isn't included in the E1 package as a web app.
Another question from Hui regarding internet connectivity. For example, because they're based in Vietnam, if they use Office 365 online, but then the internet does not stabilize properly and it's not stable, and some document they did is lost, will it be completely lost or not updated if the internet's not trying to save it, and then the internet's not stable? Will it get lost, or is there any way to retrieve it?
In that case, I'd probably recommend getting the desktop app as well and doing your work on the desktop app and then synchronizing it up to the cloud once you've finished it. So you can also, when you're using the desktop app, you can check in and check out documents. So you can check out a document, make your edits, and then once you've finished it, synchronize it back up into the cloud and check it back in. If you are concerned about sort of documents being lost, the documents get saved as you type as well, and you can also get that versioning history as well, so you won't lose everything. So I'll show you. You do get those later versions. So if, here we go. So you won't lose the whole document. You may have to, it might be a case of going back to an older version, but you won't lose the whole thing. It should also be pointed out that you need to turn versioning on when you set up your site as well. I don't believe it's on by default, but that's fairly straightforward to do in the site settings. So make sure you turn that on, and you can also change how many versions you have and whether you do smaller updates or larger, like major updates and minor updates. But there's a lot you can do with versioning, especially if you're concerned about lots of people editing it, or sort of two, making sure that you've got backups or older versions there available for you. But of course, you can definitely use it with the desktop app. So let's say you sign in, check it out, work on it on the desktop, save it on your desktop, and then sync it back up to the cloud. You can do it that way. So if you are concerned of internet connectivity issues.
Thank you. Just one last question, if you remember about the one before we talked about hyperlinking question from Don. So he just tried to clarify about the hyperlinking question. He doesn't want to link their local PC, but rather set up hyperlinks between documents in their Office 365 library in the cloud. Is that possible?
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to refer to another document, that's not a problem. You can hyperlink those in the same way that you would hyperlink in the traditional format, where if you needed to link to another document, you can do that on the desktop app as well. But for cloud documents, it's just pulling out the URL for that and adding it to your document. So yeah, not a problem at all.
Great, so that was the last question. I'm not sure if anyone else has any question. We are coming close to the end of the webinar. There is one question that I'm not sure whether Gillian might be able to help during the closing as well, but Hui was just asking where can they find more about Office trainings, Office 365 trainings on TechSoup, or attend a training about Office 365 in Vietnam. I mean, obviously our organization runs numerous webinars, and we will be running another Office 365 webinar again in the future. Through Microsoft and TechSoup Asia, but I'm not sure if Microsoft actually have on-site trainings in Vietnam on Office 365, so maybe Gillian can help answer that when I pass it back to her. Just a final question from Peter. Are there any ongoing sub-costs?
Not for the charity E1 package. If you wanted to move to the E3 package, which includes the desktop apps, then yep, there are ongoing fees for that, and that's on all of that information is on the website that we showed you. So there's option to choose E1 or E3. Let's pull up PowerPoint. It's up to you to work out what you want to do in that case, so you can go to that website and have a look. The other alternative, if you don't want to do like an ongoing subscription, as we were saying, access the donation of Office 2013 and use that in sync with your Office 365 installation. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that, or a couple of different ways that you can get the desktop apps, but also a couple of ways that you can manage the costs that may be involved with the desktop apps too.
Great, thanks, Ben. All right, I think that basically covers everything that we have today. So back on the, if you can pass back on the link before, Ben, quickly, the previous link, the previous slide. So that's for those of you who missed out on that link. Please feel free to have it written down, or we will be sending you the link to the slides anyway after the webinar, so you can refer back to that later. And so that wraps up the webinar today. And thank you very much everyone for attending. I'll pass you back to Julian quickly, just to final closing, and Julian just to address if there was anything in Vietnam that you can refer to for Hoi.
Hi, Christine. Thanks. To the point about whether there is Office 365 training in Vietnam, Microsoft does not hold regular training sessions, although there are training sessions offered sometimes around the region, usually closely linked to the NGO Connection Days, which are events that Microsoft holds for the nonprofit sector in countries around the region. So this year's event in Vietnam, well, we did a few. We've done some in Hanoi as well as in Ho Chi Minh City, and we work closely with VietNet ICT. So they are the local TechSoup global partner, and they help facilitate Microsoft's donation program, and they have a lot of information around NGO capacity building work at the country level. So VietNet ICT are great ones to check in with, and there are many resources on Office 365, of course, online. So that's the other option, that you can go and check out the various Microsoft sites. There's often a lot of great tutorials on YouTube, so if you search for Office 365 training on YouTube, there's a lot of content there. But checking in with VietNet ICT is a smart way to go, and then subscribing also to Microsoft's Tech4Good newsletter. And in that monthly newsletter, we're always updating around upcoming webinars and in-person training sessions and in-person conferences. So if you subscribe to that newsletter, you'll find out about what's coming up over the next 12 months in Vietnam. Now, aside from that, just a quick thank you to everyone. Thanks a lot to Ben and to Ryan and Christine. I think it was really great and very informative. And you know, SharePoint is really a great collaboration tool, and there's just so much included. There's so many features in SharePoint that we couldn't possibly cover everything in the short time that we have today. But hearing all of your questions is also very encouraging, knowing that there are lots of questions out there about the tool and great interest. So we'll probably schedule in the next 12 months a separate SharePoint webinar that can go a little bit deeper into the tool. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you to our presenters, and I'll hand you back to Christine.
Thanks, Jillian. So once again, just as a wrap-up, I will be sending all of you a link to access the recording and also the slides after the webinar, so you can catch up. And I will send, in that email, I will send a copy of the Tech4Good newsletter, so you can subscribe to that as well for more information on Microsoft events and resources. So on that note, thank you everyone for attending and for participating. It's really great to hear everyone from all different countries participating today. And I hope you enjoy a lovely Easter break if you do have that. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next Tech4Good webinar series next month. Thank you and have a good afternoon.